What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. I'm your host, Sabrina Soul. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. It is Thursday, and tonight we have the missing link. Shout out to you guys. I see right as of right now, and I already know the numbers are probably getting ready to go very sky high. But if you have not clicked that thumbs up, definitely click the thumbs up. If you are new here, welcome to my Seoul Mate community. If you have not subscribed to my channel, definitely subscribe. Make sure you click that notification bell so anytime that I go live or I post new content, you will be the first to know. Definitely check out my membership program as well. I have 4 tiers for you to choose from. I would love to have you pretty much in my Seoul Mate family. Also, too, the comment section is open. So if you have any questions, and I will repeat this later because I see you guys trickling in, but if you have any questions for Blake, definitely put them in the comment section, and then hopefully we'll have some time to get to your questions. And other than that, I'm excited to begin. So we have the missing link, and tonight I am going to be interviewing the amazing, the famous, the most discussed, most hated and loved from Ready to Love Miami, Blake.
Right. That part.
That part. Oh my God. You know what? I have so many questions. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but it is thundering so bad. I have so many questions, but you guys know I'm not even getting to those questions yet. So y'all are just going to have to stick around for the good questions. I like to begin. And the very first question I have for you is probably one of the toughest questions. And that is, who is Blake?
Who is Blake? Okay, let's see. I am originally from New York, inner city youth. I claim Brooklyn. Claim Jersey as well, prior military, prior government, entrepreneur, father, former husband. I earned my stars there, and I'd say I come kid tested and mother approved. That's me.
I love it. Wow. Okay. Oh God. You know, I didn't know, and maybe I missed it in the show, but I didn't know that you were married.
Yes, I have been married and divorced. Yes.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Okay, because my questions are, I'm like, well, how long were you? Okay, we're not there yet. All right, so people want to know. So this is one of the very first questions I'm going to put up. I normally don't put questions up, but you know, this soon, but we're here now. DMJ would like to know, she said, I got only one question for Blake. Is Blake his real first name?
Blake is definitely my real name. Yes.
That was actually going to be my question, but she beat me to it. So. All right, so moving forward, excuse me. So originally, where are you from? Like, where were you born?
I was born in Brooklyn, New York. Shout out to Brooklyn. Born in Brooklyn, New York. Grew up in Brooklyn. Jumped over to Jersey about high school, maybe a little bit before high school. Mm-hmm. But I was in Central Jersey, so just right across the bridge, still back and forth between New York and New Jersey. Mm-hmm. So that's why I claim them both. Left there for college at West Virginia State, left West Virginia State for the military. And then, you know, whole nother life once I started the military, finished college through the military and moved around and did a bunch of things there. Worked for the government, was a special agent for the Department of Defense. So I was a terrorism investigator, criminal investigator, hostage negotiator, had a whole life, you know, doing that. Well, moved over to government security, moved over to corporate security, and then began my own company doing all those same things.
Okay, so we're gonna get into all that, but okay, so you so you were in Miami, you did the show in Miami, but I've also heard like you live in Houston.
Correct. So my 3 regular cities are Houston, Fort Lauderdale is where I stay in Miami, in South Florida. Mm-hmm. Big difference between Miami and Fort Lauderdale for those who don't know. Like, they're only 25 minutes apart, but they're like night and day. Yes. And Atlanta. So that's where I have my footprint, and those are the places that I stay between.
Wow. So why do you stay between 3 different places?
I just like different things about all 3 cities. You know, my different lives and connections within those cities, you know, different friends. I spent a lot of time in DC. I did 7 years out there, maybe 8 years out there. I just don't go back to DC as often. DC is not what it used to be. DC used to be fun. Now DC is a little too crowded for me. But, you know, Atlanta, Houston, Fort Lauderdale, that's like a regular just rotation for me. I do a couple months or a couple weeks, so I go back and forth. It just depends on what I have going on.
So what do you have going on in all these different places other than like your friends and like, I mean, I got friends in different places too, but I'm not gonna be like, I'm gonna get an apartment here or a condo. You know, I think I'm gonna just buy a house because I got friends here. And like, I mean, that's a bit much. Is it because you're like, you know what? I'm single, I can afford it, I can do it, I love to travel, I get bored. I mean, like,
I mean, it's a little bit of both, right? It's about living my life the way I want to live it, and then making my life work for the way I choose to live. So I can pick up contracts, and a lot of times I'll have contracts in
okay.
these other cities. So I try and focus on specific cities to have contracts in, so that I can make sure that I do my rotation between those cities.
Oh.
Yeah.
So in between the rotation, what do you do with your properties? I'm just saying because I'm in like real estate and stuff like that. So I'm just kind of curious.
Um, I mean, I pay for them. You know, I still pay while I move around. Um, but you know, that's a whole nother, pot of worms. I feel like we went from like what we did to what we're gonna do with the properties. They're still there. I mean, sometimes I'll let people stay in them, especially in Florida. You know, I have people that want to come down all the time. So I have, some friends that have the code to the key, and they stay down there and they, chill until I come back, or, whatever it is they need to do when they're there for the weekend. Right. That's the bad thing about living in Florida. Because when you live in Florida, everybody thinks you're on vacation when they come down there. Right. So you get an influx of people that are just like, oh, I'm coming, I'll be here. And you got to explain to them, like, I still have a normal life, right? So every night for me is not a 2, 3, or 4 a.m. night. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So what's the funnest place out of all three for you that you like the most, enjoy the most, being at the most?
Houston, definitely. I'm in Houston right now. I love Houston the most. Yeah, I don't think any of the other cities. I think Houston is one of the most underrated cities. I think that a lot of people sleep on Houston, and what happens is when they come out to visit, they wind up moving. So most of the people that I have here in Houston aren't from Houston. They're people that came to visit when I moved here, and subsequently they moved here. And, now I have like family here and a bunch of other people. So, but Houston is definitely the best kept secret.
Wow, I keep hearing that. I need to
Yeah.
come visit.
It is. I mean, especially for Black people, I just circulated on social media for Restaurant Week. We have over like 60 Black restaurants, here in Houston,
I didn't know.
that you can frequent for Restaurant Week. And I mean, it's just always something to do. It's a really, really upcoming crowd for Black people. And there is always something to do, just always something to do.
Wow, that's good to know. See, if I hadn't talked to you, I would have never known that.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting. So how would you describe your personality?
I would say that I have a very extreme personality, all the way left and all the way right. Right. So we can do bullet hole strip clubs, or we can do, White House gala, right? Anywhere in between, we can definitely make it happen. I think that a lot of times, as we present, especially as professionals, in our world, we do a lot of code switching, right? Going back and forth and just trying to decide where we are and how much of ourselves we're going to be in what environment. So I think coming up through the military and working through the government, it's just a skill that you somewhat perfect as you, switch rooms, within your life, and you begin to climb the ladder.
So pretty much everybody, what he's trying to say is he don't got no gray areas.
No gray. There's no gray. We go left or we go right.
We go right. Exactly. Yeah. It's either white or it's Black.
Yep.
I get it. I'm the same way. I tell people all the time. I remember, quick story, I tried to get a job and they were like, so like, how are you? I said, well, I'm either Black or I'm white. They're like, so you don't do gray areas? They were like, you don't see that as a problem? I'm like, the fact that you're asking me that, well, pretty much I didn't get the job. So
Right.
I just feel like, why complicate things with a bunch of gray? You know what I'm saying? Like,
so I lie to myself and I try and say I have a gray area, but I don't, right? Like, I'm like, yeah, I got a gray area. And then my friends would be like, well, Blake, you don't even own a pair of jeans. And I'm like, well, that's not really in the gray area, right? That's something else. That ain't got nothing to do with that. So yeah, I'll take extreme left and right.
Right. Yeah. So, okay. So we heard in the beginning of the interview when you started speaking about like where you grew up, where you lived. So growing up, I'm talking about when you were like 5, 6 years old. What were you saying? What were you saying to your mom? Mom, like, I want to be this when I get older. Dad, I want to become president when I, get older. Like, what did you want to be growing up?
I'm gonna like I said, I was an inner city youth. So I came up in Brooklyn back in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And that was during like the crack epidemic, and, you know, just the world for Black people was completely different then.
Facts.
You know, I think in that environment, just surviving was the thing. I don't recall ever having like the luxury, or my friends having the luxury to say like, oh, well, we want to be X, Y, and Z,
Right.
you know, when we get older. Yeah, I mean, that's a very interesting question, because I've never thought about that until you asked, right?
Right.
No, I didn't start deciding what I wanted to be until I was about 18.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a great example of being a product of your environment.
Very much so. Very
Like
much so.
you, like, think about it. I would have never thought in a million years that's how you would have answered.
Right. Right.
Wow.
Yeah, and that surprises a lot of people. A lot of people are really surprised, you know, about my upbringing and where I'm from. I mean, you know, like I said, grandmother ran the numbers. You know, we had drugs all around. You know, it was just definitely a different time, right? And coming from New York at that time, I think that our children are just so much more advanced, right? We didn't have cell phones back then.
Yeah.
Right. When I left the house, it was like, well, we'll see you by the time the lights come on outside. And even if they didn't come on, there was nobody to call, right? They just waited some more, and you got in trouble for not being there when you were supposed to.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Whip it right in the door.
Yep, that was it. That was it, right? You had a key. You wore the key around your neck with a shoelace.
Yep.
Right. And you were either in the house or you were out the house. So I think that things were just a little different then. You know, I don't think it was as progressive at that time for me.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy, because honestly, that's so like unfortunate that you didn't have like that childhood where, you know, it was like you didn't have those dreams, like you didn't have like those, you know what I mean? Like you were kind of robbed of it.
So I don't know if I was robbed, and I don't know. I mean, I definitely could see how you would think it would be unfortunate, but I think it's just the opposite for me, right? Because it teaches, you know, resilience and the ability to overcome. It teaches you focus. It teaches determination, right? And those are the pillars of anything that you decide you want to do or be in life. So I think it's kind of, you know, which came first, the chicken or the egg, right? Do you decide what you want to do and work towards it, or do you work towards having the skill set that you need to succeed, right? I feel like they can go either way.
Right. That's a great story. Okay, so when you turned 18, you said you started thinking about what you wanted to be. So what did you start thinking about what you wanted to be?
When I turned 18, I still wasn't exactly sure, but I decided that I wanted to study criminal justice.
Okay.
Coming up, you know, in New York, we didn't have police back in the 80s, right? I don't recall. The only time I saw police cars is when I went to Manhattan, and that's because it was a tourist area, right? We really didn't have police like that in Brooklyn. And I felt like I was going to be like the police officer that was going to be nice and, you know, was going to be different than everything I had seen, right? Nah, my first traffic stop, it was just all bad. I was like, all right, you know what? Maybe I need to look at this differently. I remember I became a military police officer, and I had my first traffic stop after, you know, getting out of school and, you know, whatever. And it was some young Black guys, right? About my age. And their brake lights weren't working. Now, I had no intention on like writing tickets or anything like that, right? I honestly, in my naive years, thought that like I could be a police officer and never write a ticket. And as I got up to the window for the driver's side, before I even said anything, you know, the dude started cursing me out all the way left. And I was like, you know what? Here goes 8 tickets, you know, for the way that you feel, right? For the way that you feel. And it really opened my eyes to people, right? Just understanding that there's 2 sides to every story, 2 sides to every coin. So, you know, it allowed me to see perspective from that side. But then I also got the law enforcement perspective. I remember like I was doing highway patrol. Someone had like sped by me, and I was so offended. I pulled them over, and I was like upset, and I was so offended. Like, did you not see me? You know, when I got back to my car, after I like ran the information and stuff, I went back to them. I didn't give them a ticket. I apologized. And I was like, you know what? At the end of the day, if you want to take that chance, like all it really is a fine for you. It has nothing to do with me, right? So I recognize how the police then get caught up in, you know, that side as well. And at that point, I decided I really didn't want to do the local police thing anymore.
Police,
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Okay. I mean, I get it though, because I've flown by a police too, and then he pulled me over. He was like, I was speeding. He was like, you didn't see me? He was like, you literally passed me. He was like, I was right beside you. I was like, oh, I had a lot on my mind. This is a long time ago. So I drive the speed limit now because I hate paying extra money for stuff that I feel like I ain't had before. I don't want it now. Like I don't do late fees. I hate it. So it's like I get it. Okay, so you said that you were in the military as well.
Right. So that was in the military as well. So back when I was in military police, had dual functions, right? So we were police officers in the regular streets that you drive on, and then we had our wartime mission as well. So we had about 5 different missions that we would do, you know, your warfighter mission. Then I went from there to becoming a CID agent, special agent, Department of Defense, from Investigation Division. And had a lot of fun over there. That was kind of like, you know, policing on steroids, but it was just more on the international stage than, you know, on the local stage. So I did like protection when Secretary of Rumsfeld was the Secretary of Defense. Now I'm dating myself, right? I ran his protection detail, traveled everywhere with him. One of the members of the detail, of the immediate detail, and you know, did the Iraq, Uzbekistan, Kuwait, you know, been to all of those places, and just had a really fulfilling military career.
Right. What branch were you in?
Was in the Army.
Wow. Okay. That's amazing. So you've been doing this for a while then.
Yeah, literally, it's been like my entire life, you know, to be honest with you. It's been my entire life, because even coming up in the inner city and knowing all of the, how do you say, knowing all of the quirks of the game, right? And then going over to work law enforcement. So I went from being like a troubled youth to less than a year later being like on top of my game in law enforcement, right? Because they kind of went hand in hand with the knowledge base that you have and, you know, how you move and knowing how to relate to the people. And it was so bad. Like I was so young when I became an agent that I wasn't legally old enough to carry a gun. I had to get a waiver from the Secretary of Defense, you know, to carry a gun because I had started so young.
Right.
But again, that was from being a product of my environment and being able to, you know how to move and shake in certain environments. Yeah.
Right. Wow. So, wow. So, okay. So you held all these different positions, you did all these different things, and it was within the military. So now you are a Chief Information Security Officer.
Correct.
Now, with that being said, and you guys know I hate, like, not hate, but I really dislike bringing Ready to Love in the middle of this. But on the show, because they put that you were a security officer, people were like, he top flight. Oh, he's top flight. He work at the mall. He carry a gun or whistle. He be at the mall. So can you explain to the people, the good people, what exactly is a Chief Information Security Officer?
Got you. So when you talk enterprise security, when you talk about an organization, and let's say an organization has thousands of locations, that information has to be secured somehow. And there are a bunch of regulations that go in securing that information. So if you talk about, I think the most popular thing that people might know would be HIPAA, right? Everybody sees HIPAA everywhere, right? So there's actual steps that have to be taken to protect HIPAA information. And that information is actually protected daily, right? You have to look at who has access to it, why they have access to it, blah, 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 blah. So on an enterprise level, it's creating a plan that makes sure that every employee on every level does not violate that HIPAA regulation. And then responding when something like a HIPAA regulation is violated. And we have it for an untold number of information categories. Right? So you work closely. It's like being in between IT and the traditional concept of security.
Cybersecurity, right?
Right. So it's right in the middle of that cybersecurity. Correct.
Wow.
So you write the plans, like I write the continuity of operations plans. So let's say you have an enterprise, a large organization, and they have an outage or they have a breach, or someone with a gun goes and shuts down one of their, major locations. Then I write the plan for how that organization is going to continue to operate with the loss of that organization, to make sure that they still hit their revenue numbers, to make sure that they still hit their personnel numbers, and everything continues to go on without a hitch.
Oh, okay. So it's
it's extremely broad.
Broader, way broader than what I thought.
Yeah, it's extremely broad. Typically you have a few teams that work under you. You'll have an IT team, you'll have engineers, you have security under you. Along with that goes like business impact analysis, how certain things will impact the organization. You have threat assessments, identifying the threats to the business, right? Looking at who would be interested in ransomware, or who would want access to the information or the facility, or any part of the business. You have to look at the brand reputation and making sure that you're protecting the reputation of the brand. I mean, it covers an entire gamut of things. So that's why it was easier to just put chief security officer than to put something down that people would say, well, I don't know what that is. But I was okay with top flight. I didn't take offense. Like, top flight worked for me.
Yeah. It's just so funny because I know that when I seen that, I was like, a lot of people really are clueless. You know what I mean? And I'm so glad that you have the opportunity to explain this. So now with cybersecurity, because a lot of people don't even know what cybersecurity is, can you explain to them what that is? So it will kind of all make sense. Of course, we're going to, keep discussing it, but
yeah. So going back 20 years ago, right? When we thought about security, all we really thought about was merchandise. And we thought about people stealing your merchandise, and that's how people made money. They would steal your merchandise and they would resell it, on a corner, black market, or what have you. Now the thing is, there's no reason to put yourself at risk to steal merchandise and to go to jail if I can sit in my house and steal 200,000 social security numbers, along with the names, the date of births. Now I can sell those for $200 a piece to people that want to buy them, to open up credit cards, buy cars, do different things with, right? So cybersecurity is an approach at protecting everyone's information from the thieves that would want to do something like that, right? Also selling off trade secrets, right? The Big Mac sauce, right? So I'm sure Big Mac has an information security program to make sure that nobody knows what ingredient is actually in the Big Mac sauce. Because if they sold it, then the Big Mac would lose its value, right? Because everyone would just, use the sauce. So it's looking at security from a more holistic standpoint on a much, much larger level, more of an international level, because a lot of this stuff crosses international borders, right? So you have people that may be in Russia or Ukraine or Saudi Arabia that are actually jumping into your computer to steal this information. Additionally, the big thing we have now is ransomware, right? So you have a company, you have an organization, and let's say take something like a hospital, right? With all of the patient records and all of the treatments. So you have characters out there that will lock down your system and demand that you pay them $2, $3, $10 million, depending on the size of your hospital, to unlock that system. And you have to unlock it because of the legal ramifications and the life or death nature of what it is that you're doing. If your system is locked and you don't know what medication to give people, you don't know what the treatment plan is, right? You don't have any information. So it's a much, much larger look at, security and how we're going to move forward, within our organizations on a corporate level.
So so how sometimes we'll get emails and it'll say Capital One has just been breached. All your information has. So how does a situation like that happen?
So that is exactly the failure of your information system. That's the failure of your information management system, is how that breach occurred. Yep. So you didn't have a good plan in place, or you had a vulnerability that you didn't identify, or you didn't have a mediation, plan in place. It really just depends, because you also have the insider threat as well, right? So yeah, there's the people on the outside, but then you get the people on the inside who have access to this information, that know that its social and date of birth are going for $200 a piece, and they have access to 2 million of them. right? So you have to put programs in place so that they can't just throw in a USB drive, download the information, and take it home.
Right, but
Right?
some
So
of these,
there's a lot. I mean, it's a very, very large playing field, you know, as far as that part goes.
but the thing is these be big companies,
Yeah.
like huge companies that should already have these processes and programs and all all this stuff in place, but
You
they
do.
still get breached.
But,
So
but
it's
what you
like,
know, what you have is you have something known as role-based access, right? And what that means is depending on your job will determine what access level you have to the information, right? So if you just answer the phones at one of these, let's say Bank of America, you just answer the phones at Bank of America, you have zero reason to have access to account information. But let's say you're an account manager. Well, now as an account manager, you have access to this information. Now, if you're looking at an insider threat, are you getting ready to fire this account manager? Are they disgruntled? Are they unhappy with their job? Right? Do they have a financial problem? Because these are all motivations for them to sell that information on the outside. So that would be looking at it from an inside level as opposed to from the outside.
outside, like a breach from like oh wow, I guess I never really thought about it like that, like someone from the inside doing it. So so everything that you've pretty much learned in the position that you're in now, did you learn that from being in the military and the jobs that you had prior, or did you go to school while you were in the military? Like, do you have to have like a degree to do this? Like, how does that work with the
So I think
schooling?
for me, it all comes together because the nature of criminality is pretty much the same, right? The motivations are the same. So I think that probably comes with experience, being able to read people and knowing people, being able to identify who would be more likely to do something like this than the other person. I'd say the steps to mitigate and to respond to, that takes special training. So one of my certifications is a CISM, it's a Chief Information Security Manager. And that just pretty much says that you've mastered information security and the concepts surrounding information security. You don't necessarily have to go to school for it, but you would have to have some type of career path that has taken you, you know, there. But there's no real trajectory, if you will, you know, for it, right? It's something that you learn, and once you learn it, you can master it. You can go to school, you can take training programs and different things that you can do. And it's definitely something that I would suggest for, you know, people that are looking to do something different or just starting out, because, you know, the industry pays extremely well, pays extremely well. And it
I
gives you a
was
lot of
getting ready to
flexibility.
ask you, but with everything that you're doing, how could it not? Like, it just makes a lot of sense. If anything, even if you were making six figures, it's kind of like I feel like you might be a little underpaid. It would have to be over $500,000.
Oh, no, I will tell you that you are definitely fairly compensated in this industry. Yeah, this isn't one of those underpaid industries, because, you know, you're the subject matter expert for, you know, this enterprise.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a lot of responsibility there, but as long as you know what you're doing and you learned and, you know, you've come up and you have the right tutelage, and, you know, it's not something that's impossible, but it's definitely something that you can look at. And this is like, again, this is the top position of it. You know, you have the entry level position, which is fairly easy to get into. The certifications are fairly cheap, right? If you didn't go to college or you don't have money for college, or college isn't an option right now, you know, you have lower certifications that you can get for a few $100 that will at least open the door for you to get a job within the industry, right? So we don't have enough Black people in tech. So I will say that. And we definitely don't have enough Black people in cyber tech.
Y'all hear that?
Definitely an avenue to take, especially for the young people, because the young people already have an understanding of, you know, these computer systems and how things work, right? Backdoors, open source code. The young people know it already, right? So definitely an avenue that, you know, you can do really, really well in, and really be able to promote yourself.
So
Then
much
it's
good.
even better when you start a company doing it, and then you
Yeah.
get to outsource for other people. So
Yeah.
it just opens up a whole world.
So how long did it take you from the beginning to where you're at now to get to where you are at now, right now?
When I got out of the military, I opened my first company. I was probably about 24, 25. And within 2 years, I was doing $26 million worth of business. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Congratulations to all of your success with that, man.
Oh, thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, I commend you. I give you your props. Absolutely. I'm so glad that you're able to discuss it and to really talk about it, because I swore, I was like, he does not work in a mall. Like, what is going on? So I'm so glad that you're able to explain and to clarify and to let them know, like,
Right.
no, this is what I do. And let me put some respect on his name.
Yeah, you know what? I don't mind. Don't respect it. I'm okay with it. Don't respect it because it's a need to know basis anyway, right?
That part. They
basis.
still need to put some respect on your name. You're so humble. I appreciate that too, but no, because I keep it 100 all the time.
Well,
No,
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
But thank you so much. So what advice would you give to someone or anyone that is interested in getting into this field?
I would just say do the research. I mean, there are definitely beginning, certifications, security like A++. I'm sorry. Yeah, A++. There's just so many avenues to get into it, right? It's just that we as Black people, I don't think we have the exposure to understand, right?
Mm-hmm.
This little A++ certification, let's use that as an example. It's like an hour-and-a-half test. I mean, it's not very difficult. Well, I don't want to say it's not difficult. If you apply yourself, it's not difficult. But a basic A++ certification will get you in the door for 60 grand, right? So when you talk about a $200 investment, to get a job making 60 grand, it's not that bad. The other certifications become a little bit more expensive as you go on, but you also need to, be in it to learn. So it's a constantly evolving, and it's an area that's just constantly, it's a constant learning that you would have to do, but it's not something that's impossible. And to be honest, I definitely promote it with, the loss of all of these jobs due to technology, right? All of these jobs that are going to be lost to the robots and the robotics and the outsourcing overseas. We have to have another way to move ourselves forward, because we as, Black people, we were the labor, right? We are the labor force in the labor market in a lot of these areas. And it was because we didn't have degrees and, education opportunities. But this is an area that can bridge that gap for you, definitely, to at least give you a foot in the door and possibly a leg up, right, if you decide to actually pursue it. 3 years in, doing what you're supposed to do, as far as certifications go, doing a good job, you can make 100 grand.
Such good information. Thank you so much for that. Okay, now moving forward.
The nitty gritty, right? Let's get to the nitty gritty. I got you.
I was about to say, definitely take a sip.
All right, let's do it. I feel like I was just warmed up. That was the warm up, right?
I get comfortable.
Now we're gonna get to the gusto.
No, because I'm really not that bad here. I know the comment section is probably gonna get specific, but shout out to you guys. It's 151 of you watching. I appreciate you so much. If you have not hit that thumbs up, definitely take a moment to click that thumbs up if you are enjoying this interview. Now, if you have any questions for Blake, definitely put them in the comment section, and hopefully we do get to them, and I can ask the questions for you. So let's move on, because everybody wants to know. I know they want me to ask you specific questions, but there's so many interviews that you're going to be doing, and there's so many other interviews that you have already done that you've answered a lot of the questions that I'm sure that they have. But I have my own questions. Okay. And the very first question is with the show is, how did you find out about the show? Did they come to you?
They did. So I didn't know anything about the show. I got a phone call, and I actually thought it was a crank call. It was someone saying that they were working with the show. And I had never seen the show either, right? I'm not a big social media person. I'm trying to do better. I mean, I'm horrible. I'll put like one post out there, say I'm gonna keep it going, and then it takes me 3-4 weeks to do it again. But I'm not really a big social media person, and I don't really watch reality TV. So when they called me, I didn't know what the show was, and I thought it was, a crank call or a joke or, what have you. So I hung up, and then they called back and like, no, this is the real thing. Google it, check it out. And at first I said no, right? It wasn't really for me. I'm pretty private, as you can tell from like you dragging these things out of me on my interviews, right? I'm pretty private. And I didn't know that I wanted to have that much exposure to my, personal life. So I said no, and then they called back and they asked again, and I said no, and then they called back and they asked a third time. So I sat down with some of the people closest to me in my circle, and I said, what do you guys think about this? And they were like, you know what? It's an opportunity to have some fun. You'll at least be able to check the box, if nothing else. So I was like, you know what? I'm game. Let's do it. I'll try anything, almost anything, at least once. So let's do it.
So like being on the show, and I know I've seen on your other interviews, and I've also seen in different places where you said that you've only watched like a couple of episodes.
Yes.
Like, how many episodes have you watched of the show?
So I've only seen 2 episodes of the show. After I saw, the character that they were trying to portray, and the fact that they would not allow me to speak, and the way that they were cutting it up, to present certain things. Quite honestly, I just lost interest. I wasn't mad at it. I definitely understood going into it that it was for entertainment purposes, right? And it was going to have an entertainment value. And I definitely understood that they were going to create a character, but it's just a little difficult to watch when I know that, what's going on is not, the way it was, or who I am, or the depiction that they actually decided to create.
So what do you mean by when you watch the 2 episodes that you did watch, like what you saw on TV was not you?
So I had a episode where I talked about being 87% sure that I wasn't having any more children.
Okay.
And that was a part of a much larger conversation that we had amongst the group of us. And they kind of took like this snippet and they kind of hung this snippet out there as if like that was the drop dead statement that was made. It didn't give any context, to it. So that was one piece. And then the other piece, we had a conversation about like single parent households, broken relationships. And I think Corbea asked me a question when we were talking about broken relationships, like if broken children, if I think that children are broken that come from broken relationships and single family households. And I said, yeah, but the way they cut it made it seem like I just volunteered out of nowhere that, children are broken and, that's that if they have a single parent. So I realized that it was not going to allow me to portray like who I actually am or the conversation, right? Because I'm 10 toes down on everything that I said on the show, but I would at least like that they would have added some context and shown what the entire conversation was.
Yeah, because in the very beginning, and of course, everybody knows I was on the show as well. So it's like in the very beginning when I was watching you and when you said that, and I want to say that was probably at that very moment, I was like, Blake, I was like, I can't believe you said that. And then I was like, hold up. Like I really had to stop, think about it. You know what I mean? And I was like, nope, I don't want to feel this way about him too soon. I was like, I need to just keep watching. You know what I mean? And as the episodes kept going, I was like, it's something about Blake. I was like, I feel like he's misunderstood. And I was like, it's a lot of people that don't really like him right now. What were you about to say?
Yeah, so I don't think I was misunderstood per se. I think that was, the goal of production, right? They just showed a bunch of facial expressions. And, they would show the women talking and then they would just show me with the facial expression. Like we didn't have an entire conversation, right? Like the women are talking to themselves. So I think that was just a part of what they did for, entertainment and shock value, which, obviously worked, right? We want to see his head on a stick for a little while, right? But, as time went on, I think that the show got to play out a little bit better. And I was able to showcase a little bit more, my thought process and who I am. So, hopefully that was enough to kind of level things out.
Yeah. Like I just when I looked at you and when I watched you, I was like, oh, he means business. Like they could have said a joke and they could have laughed and you would have just sat there and been like, I'm not going to laugh because I didn't find it funny.
Yeah, it wasn't funny. Yeah. I'm not good with being disingenuous. Right. So it comes across even worse if I try and give you a fake laugh, right? And just smile at you. So there definitely was a lot of that. I mean, I think the other thing that needs to be said, as I'm sure you've experienced, especially in the beginning, you have cameras in your face from a bunch of different angles.
Exactly.
Right. So you already have the stress of trying to talk to a stranger that may or may not want to talk to you or that may or may not have something to say that, you know, in the male role, right, you have to get that person to open up and speak.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that added to, you know, some of the stress, especially in the beginning for a lot of people. But, you know, all in all, it was a good experience. It was a good experience as far as checking the box, right? It was fun to go through, and, you know, you had a lot of laughs while you were going through it, a lot of long days. But, you know, people don't understand, you're shooting for 18 hours for them to come up with 20 minutes worth of content. So you got to realize that's 17 hours and 40 minutes worth of stuff that you did not get to see.
Right. That is absolutely right. And they chop and they will put it together however they see fit, however they see fit.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, so I get it. All right. So the very first scene when you meet everyone at the mixer. So was it any women that when you first walked in, you was like, that's my type, and that's my type? Like, or were you like, my type not here?
So I'll say all of the women were beautiful, right? I mean, I think there's something for everyone.
Yes.
A part of the reason for me to go on was to be a little bit more open-minded, to see what someone else would choose for me, you know, as opposed to what I would typically choose. So I went on with an open mind. So I stayed somewhat neutral until I could really feel out, you know, each person and figure it out. You know, at my age, I'm kind of past the running to talk to one stage, right? I'd rather walk and talk to them all, and then let's just figure out, you know, where we go from there.
Yeah. So there was no one that caught your eye when you walked in, not like.
No, you know, everybody was already talking, everybody was already engaged, you know, so I just kind of, you know, you glance over and you just kind of walk through and, you know, kind of head nod and stuff. So no, but like I said, everyone, you know, was attractive. You know, I can't take anything away from anybody. You know, everybody has something that works for them, and, you know, we're all people, so we're unique in our characteristics and our attractions. But what I will say is no one was what I would have traditionally walked in and said, okay, well, this is a person I'll strike a conversation with. But that could also have a lot to do with the environment that we were in, right? Because it was an extremely controlled environment, so no one was being their true selves.
Right. Because it's crazy, especially the very first day. You're nervous. I think I was sweating like the whole time we were outside. The sun was beaming. I was nervous. I was like, oh my God, you have a booger in my nose. Like, oh my God, like what is going on here? You know? And then I have to smile and really like try to get these guys, you know, like attention and have conversation and try to be pretty. And oh my God, my heels going in the grass and the mud.
Yeah, I definitely think the women had it way worse than we did. They had it way worse. I mean, we just sweat. We were like, oh, well, we're sweating. They'll do it. But I think for the women, I mean, between sweating the hair out, makeup running, right, feet hurting for being in shoes for 18 hours, right, I think they had it pretty bad.
Yeah, because I remember I had to take a couple breaks just so I can take my shoes off. And it was crazy. I should have never did it because when I put my shoes back on, my feet were like,
it's over. Yeah, of course. Should have known better.
It was, I know. I should have, but I just needed a minute. I just needed it was my pinky toe was like,
and I totally get it. I mean, you know, people don't understand the amount of like standing around that you have to do, right? When they're telling you just stand up, just wait. They got to set up cameras, you know, hold position while we move all the cameras around. So yeah, definitely.
And a lot of people, I don't think that you guys know this, but a lot of times, sometimes what you see, what we film, they'll be like, all right, run it back, do it again. And it's like, what? I don't know if you watched did you watch any of the other seasons, Blake?
I did not, but I experienced it. I had my first kiss 3 times on the show, right? Like, they're like, all right, make it look natural. Like, look, it was natural the first time. Like, we didn't get it. All right, so we got to do it 2 more times, right? So yeah, definitely with you. Definitely with you.
Well, I'm gonna say when you and Sue kissed, I was like, they don't really look like they want to kiss, and it made me feel like that, and that's probably why. Because
it was the 3rd time. Yeah, they're like, all right, say that again. I'm like, well, can you tell me what I said, right? Because when you say things naturally, you don't really remember what you say. It's not rehearsed. So you know what you saw was the 3rd take of, you know, the first kiss. So it was like, okay.
Because honestly, I said to myself, they really don't look like they want to kiss each other. I was like, they ain't feeling each other. Like, that's what I said. I was like, they're not feeling each other. They don't like each other for real because of that kiss. But
Well, I
that
mean,
makes
we were
sense.
having an in-depth conversation, and the conversation was flowing really well. And the kiss happened, and we continued to talk. And then they're like, "Stop, hold on, we missed it. Do it again," right? So that throws off the entire energy, the entire vibe of what you were going through. So I could
Right.
definitely understand why, perhaps looking from the outside, it was a little awkward.
Absolutely. But it's so good to know that now, you know what I mean? Because had I
Mhm.
not known, I would have just thought that one scene, they wasn't feeling each other. But I get it. Y'all actually were. That's why y'all kissed, but we didn't see that kiss.
Right,
So,
right, right.
okay. All right.
Mhm.
So, oh my God. Do you regret anything that you did on the show? Do you regret anything that you said on the show? Wish that you could have said something differently?
No, 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 not at all. I mean, I meant everything I said.
Yeah.
I think that again, a lot of it was taken out of context. So for purposes of the show, it wouldn't have mattered. I could have said it differently, and they still would have tried to cut it to have the same impact, to the audience. So, for
Yeah.
that reason, I really don't regret it. I think it's a very adult conversation. I think I had adult conversations. Um,
Yeah.
I think that they were age appropriate for where I am in my life and for my age, right? You got to realize we have people of different ages up there, and going
Mhm.
on the show, you know, production is picking the ages. We don't know that when we get there, the people are going to be of, particular ages. And that's something that I've, said in previous interviews, right? So sometimes things get lost understanding that everybody is not in the same place, when you're 30 versus when you're 45, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Because I did this. I went through the same thing. Like, I told the guy, I'm like, how is this going to work? I'm like 11 years older than you. Like, like, stop acting like you want to make a connection with me. It's no connection. You know,
Right,
in a
right,
few
right.
more years, you could be my son. Like, stop.
Yeah. Yeah, and
You
and
know?
I mean, that was it for me. I mean, some of the people there were closer to my son's age than they were mine,
Right.
right? So,
Exactly.
you know,
Because you were one of the older ones
I
on
was
the show.
the oldest.
And see, I was the oldest woman on
Yeah, I
my
was the
season, so I
oldest.
get
Yeah.
it. Yeah, there's
So,
no way that I can make a connection with a 35-year-old. It's no way.
well,
Like, I
I
mean,
think it's
not,
different for women. I think it's different for women. I think you
yeah.
could do 10 years. Like, I think, to me, it's not just an age, or it's not really an age within
Mm-mm.
reason. It's a life experience thing.
Yeah, no, I can't.
Right?
Mm-mm.
So if I have a grown adult and a grown man that I'm raising, and you're still, dreaming of having your first child, we're probably not going to be able to meet in the middle to bridge that gap.
Right. So you said in the beginning of the interview that you were married once before. I
Yes,
think I knew that. I think I knew that. You said that on the show, didn't you?
I did. Hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So are you planning on, or do you ever want to get married again?
I have no objection to marriage. I think my approach would be a little bit different than what it was in my younger years. I think as you're coming up, especially in your 30s, I
Mm-hmm.
think you do a lot of things based off of what you think you're supposed to do,
Mm-hmm.
but not really knowing or understanding why you're supposed to do them. And I think it
Mm-hmm.
winds up shortchanging you in the end. So, now when I think about marriage, before I think about marriage, I think about the end of days. I think about being old and whether I can see myself with this person and what
Yeah.
it would look like. And if I can see that, then we can talk about marriage. But I won't
Absolutely.
I won't get married to figure it out. Like, no.
That part. Say it louder for the people in the back. So just to confirm, you don't want no more kids, right?
No, no more kids. No, no, I'm good. Yeah.
I just got asked because it was like 13%, you know.
Yes. Well, I was trying to be not when you heard it in context of the conversation, we laughed about it, like, and I was like, nah, no more kids for me. But they just kind of stopped it at the 87%, for the WTH value, right? So
Yeah, because everybody was like, what does that mean? Like either he wants kids or he doesn't want kids, you know what I mean? So, but that's good that you clarified that up as well because you said it then
right,
during that conversation, we just didn't get a chance to see it.
right.
So, all right, that makes sense. So, real quick, like how long have you been single? Like up into the show, how long were you single?
Um, I've been my serious relationship ended in 2019. Then we had COVID, right?
Hmm.
So after COVID, thereafter, I've dated here or there, but again, having kids and being 45, dating takes on a completely different um, life for me. right? So I don't know. I think once you've been married and once you already have kids and once you kind of check those boxes, the desire to force a situation or to, be with someone else, it changes. And I'm at a point in my life where I value peace, right? And peace is what's important above all. So when I think about dating, it's typically someone that I can still maintain my peace with. We can kind of go from there. But it can be challenging in this new way, in this new world order. I'll say, like this new world order with the social media and all these things. I'm not big on social media like that. I definitely understand the value for like businesses and promoting things, but we're going out to eat and you're taking 25, 30 pictures while we're out eating. Like that's just not something that I'm into at my stage. I'd rather sit down and actually enjoy the person.
Yeah.
Right? So it's just a little different. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. So what qualities do you look for in a woman?
Intelligent, able to carry a conversation. They have to be confident, definitely confidence. They have to be open-minded, and they have to have great energy. I'm an energy person. They have to have great energy. Like there's nothing worse than dating someone that's a stick in the mud, right? Like nothing there. So I would definitely say I'm an energy person.
Yeah, definitely huge for me too. One last question, and I actually forgot to ask you this a little bit earlier. How is the relationship between you and your kid's mother?
Great. I think I'm pretty fortunate in that area. I hear a lot of war stories out there, and I can say that I don't have any of those. I mean, obviously it's always challenging when you have two parents not in the same household, right? So we're not immune to the things that everyone else goes through when it comes to the decisions surrounding our children. But all in all, I don't have, drama in the sense of, some of these things I see, on some of these shows or some other people go through.
Right. Okay. Now, I know previously you and I, like we talked briefly about like you have a lot of wisdom and the things that you said, I was really curious. And then we actually started to talk about your YouTube channel that you are beginning, and the information that, with everything that we were discussing and then talking about the YouTube channel, I was like, wow, that's going to be amazing. You know what I mean? So can you give the people a little bit of information, let them know the name of it, what kind of content you're going to have, etc.
Sure. So it's called Gentleman's Code is the name of the channel. And it's really a space for men and for young men to really have some of these tough conversations and conversations about where we should be, ideas of masculinity, ideas of manhood, dealing with women in a sense of like chivalry and different things. And it was born of the fact that, my sons are with their mom and they're not with me. And a lot of times giving that information and teaching some of these values becomes really difficult by nature of the relationship. So there are a lot of things that I said, I think that there are a lot of people that can benefit from this information, especially the younger adults and the single moms, right? The moms that are out there that are raising boys, because what I'm finding is a lot of women are raising men that they would never date themselves, right? So it's just to have some of these conversations about, manhood and understanding that manhood is something that you have to grow into. You don't hit a particular age and now you're quote unquote wrong. So there's lots of topics there that I think would be a benefit to both the men and the women.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think that channel is going to be amazing. So just to let everybody know that the link for Blake's YouTube channel is down in the description box. So definitely when we are done with this live, click that link and then go subscribe to his channel. Are there any projects that you're working on that you're able to share that you'd like to discuss, or any other projects that you're working on?
Not yet. There's always something going on, but as you can tell, I'm kind of stingy with my information. So I'm going to hold on to it for a little while. But by the time we circle back around for this post reunion interview, which should be very interesting, I think that we'll be able to get a little bit more in depth into those other things.
Right. Great. So where can the people find you on social media, or do you want to share any websites or any links or anything like that?
So my my social media, my Instagram is champ, CHAMP _ Fenimore, FENIMORE. I do respond to the respectable DMs because I am looking at, different topics to cover. So, people jump in with ideas, and a lot of times I'll put those ideas on like the poll on my story, and kind of get that interaction, because I also want to have some of the conversations that other people want to have. It's not just about the things that I want to put out there.
Right. So definitely,
Aries.
and also to
Aries. March,
so,
baby.
so that is the question that that I wanted to put up for you, so you can answer that. But just to let everybody know that the link for the gentleman's code for his YouTube channel is down below. Also, the link for his Instagram is down below, so definitely follow him on Instagram as well. Other than that, Blake, I appreciate this interview. You are amazing. Thank you so much for being patient with me and for everybody. And I'm gonna say, we sorry, Blake. No, I'm just joking, because I've been Team Blake from the beginning.
No. Let's not act like I didn't put you on the spot and ask you if you started as Team Blake or if you ended as Team Blake.
No, you did. You asked me, and what did I tell you? And everybody, and y'all can put it in the comment section. I was never a Blake basher. Never. I used to always be like, I just think he's misunderstood. And
I appreciate that.
And I used to be like, it's something about Blake. And everybody knows that the first Miami season, I used to be like, it's something about Samson, but it wasn't good. And I used to be like, there's something about Blake, but it wasn't that. It was like something good. Like, nah, like everybody trying to make him out to be the bad guy, and he's not. Like, it's something about him, guys. I just think that he's just for no BS. But yeah, but you're a real one. I mess with you. Congratulations to all your success. I don't know if you and Sue ended together, but I love Sue. I hope you guys, have a great relationship and everything works out for you guys. If that is the case, just from what we saw on the show, what I saw. And other than that, thank you. Yeah, that's it.
I appreciate you having me. It was a lot of fun. Absolutely. So I look forward to doing it again.
Thank you. I would love to have you back. Guys, make sure you click that thumbs up. If you have not subscribed to my channel, make sure you subscribe. And other than that, guys, I will see you tomorrow night